Hi class, welcome to Illustrator Lab 2. Today we are going to start with some file creation and how to place an image into Illustrator. Then we're going to get into the building blocks of all vector objects, which are anchor points, handlebars, and paths. We're going to do that with the pen tool and the anchor point tool. The file you're going to need today is pentoolintro.png. When you've downloaded that file, I want you to launch Illustrator. And you'll notice that the first kind of home page here has a few custom templates for sizes that they predict you will use. We also have the ability to open a new file or an existing file. I want you to go to New File. And here in this New File window, you'll notice there are still some more templates available to you. You can look through Saved, also another library of different sizes. We're going to create a custom one. So here where it says Untitled 12, let's go ahead and just call this AI Lab 2. And then we can determine the width and height of our artboard or artboards. Let's go ahead and work in pixels. If yours wasn't already in pixels, you can change that. Mine started out in inches. And let's start with a 1080 pixel by 1080 pixel square. Now, the last time I opened a document in here, I did have 3 artboards, so I could change this back to 1. Or we can go ahead and let's bump this up to 5. Let's start out with 5 artboards so you can kind of see what you're working with. All right, when you're done with just those few options, I want you to hit Create. All right, Illustrator has now opened a file with 5 artboards. They are stacked in a way that Illustrator determined. We can rearrange them. Now, I have my artboards window open down here, and it shows me each one of these. If you would like your artboards window open, you can come up here to Window and Artboards. All right, get mine back now. All right, we touched on this briefly last time, but your artboard tool is down here on your toolbar. And when you're in your artboard tool, you're basically in a selection tool for your artboards, which means you get a bounding box when you select it. And that bounding box will allow you to create a bigger or smaller artboard. If you have your control panel up, which you can get by clicking on Window and Control, you can type in a very custom width and height and have multiple artboards and at very different sizes. Perhaps this one should be, let's try 340. You don't have to necessarily do the same ones that I'm doing, although I'd love it if you followed along for that. We're going to delete them here in a minute, which is why I say that. Oops, that's not what I meant. 340 pixels by 190 pixels. All right, now Illustrator brought these artboards in kind of vertically stacked in rows of 2. If we'd like to change that up in our control panel, we can hit Rearrange All and ask the program to stack them differently. So it had chosen the layout where we had columns and we went down vertically. I would like all of my artboards to be in the same horizontal line with a 100 pixel gap between each. Now, if they had art on them, I would definitely want the artwork to move with the artboard. All right, here they are now, laid out horizontally with a 100 pixel gap between each one. All right, so those are just some very simple manipulation tools for your artboard tool. Let's get ourselves down to just one artboard. So if we select artboard 5 and hit delete, our selection tool will jump to artboard 4, and then we can hit delete until we are down to 1. You'll notice that you cannot delete the only artboard left on an Illustrator document. That's for safety, I suppose. Hard to get back. Illustrator does need to know what the artboard is as a program. All right, when you're done, we can just switch tools, and then we will be outside of the artboard tool, so you no longer have that bounding box. We're going to place an image into this file now, that PNG, the pen tool intro. So I want you to come up here to File, Place, and I want you to select pen tool intro from where you saved it. Now when you hit place, your cursor will show up in the program with a, mine's flicky, with an icon of that image next to it. Now this image is very big, which is probably why my cursor is doing that flicker. You may either click once and it will give you that image at its exact size, or you can click and drag into an area and it will try to fit the image into that area. I want you to click once, and it should show up at its true size. All right, so here's our image. You'll notice that it is much bigger than the artboard. So we have two options. We can collect our artboard tool, drag it over the art, and then using that bounding box, stretch it wide. Or there's a really nifty trick with the artboard tool where if you click on a JPEG or PNG image, it will create an artboard that fits to its exact dimensions. Once you've done that, once you've clicked on the pen tool intro PNG, we can click on artboard tool and delete that since it's now no longer the only artboard. We can name this artboard pen tool intro. And we've just got a couple steps before we can move forward and do all the fun things that it looks like is happening. First, let's go ahead and change tools. So you hit hotkey V so you're in your selection tool. Let's select this image. Right now it should have a big X through the bounding box. This is because this image is linked. When we placed it, we wanted Illustrator to remember where we had placed it from. So it's memorized where in the computer your file is saved. And it's accessing that information instead of baking it into the file itself. I want you to bake it into the file itself. Oftentimes you send files to somebody, including me, and I do not have access to your desktop or your downloads folder. And so if you have an image in your document, my Illustrator won't know where it is and it cannot display it. So we're going to embed the image. We're going to make it an integral part of our document. We can do that once you've selected your image, and here in your control bar, we can hit embed. And you'll know it's embedded because that X that goes through it will disappear. And the X was just the same color as our layer. So our layer is blue, so that X was blue. All right, once finished, let's lock this layer. We're going to use this as the background layer. We're going to draw on top of it. So lock this layer, and let's give ourselves a brand new one. We didn't do this last time, but let's do it now. In your layer window, again, if you don't have it, please come up here to Window and then down to Layers. We're going to give ourselves a brand new layer by clicking on this little plus sign down at the bottom of our palette. Our layer 2. This layer is going to be red. That's how we're going to know the difference between them. Personally, I don't want it to be red, not for this lab. So let's go ahead and double click on layer 2. Oops, not on the text, on the bar next to it. And let's change this from light red to, let's just do black. I think that'll make it really easy to see what we're doing. And hit OK. Remember, this is the color that paths and anchor points and handlebars turn up. So that's why I want it to be something that's going to show up really, really well. All right, now that we're on layer 2, let's go ahead and zoom in. We're going to go through this entire PNG in the order that it is built. A, B, C, D, all the way through J, 1 through 5, K, L, M, N. All right. So to zoom, remember you can hold down Control and Space. You can use your scroll wheel, whatever way that you've learned best. I'm holding down Command and Space. And let's get in right here close to A. I'm going to collapse layers. I don't necessarily need it to be very big right now. And I'm also going to do some artboards. What I'm mostly concerned with today, I might even attach that to the bottom. What I'm mostly concerned with today is our pen tool, and that you are going to get very good at using and manipulating the pen tool. The pen tool hotkey is P. All right, P for pen. Now we're going to follow the directions here on A. And every time we click, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we get an anchor point. And the anchor points are connected by path. That's what that black line is. This is going to be a little bit problematic for us in the future to have a white fill object. It's going to cover up some of the directions on the inside. So let's change this object to have a no fill. Let's go ahead and bring that forward on your toolbar and then click the cancel red mark there. So no fill. And then I want you to bring your stroke forward on your control bar, double click, and we're going to give this a nice bright green stroke. I'm going to reselect this stroke with my selection tool, my black arrow key, hotkey V. I'm going to make that stroke maybe 4 points, something so we can see it very, very easily. All right, so every time you click, you create an anchor point with your pen tool. And I'm going to do that again with you really quick here. So we're going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we have a whole path with 4 anchor points and 4 pieces of path. All right, this would be great if everything that we had to do had straight lines, but most things that we have to draw have to have curved lines. So this is where we're going to start learning the handlebar. Let's go to step B here. All right, 1 is click, 2 is click, 3 is click and drag. So don't let go of your click until you've dragged, and you'll get this little set of handlebars. Go ahead and drag them all the way out over the template and release them. You notice that this has determined that the path has a curve. Now the next place, it just says click and click. All right, so this one still has only 4 anchor points, but now our pieces of path, one piece of our path has handlebars. Now let's do in step C a path that has handlebars for every anchor point. The way to do that is we have to click and drag from the beginning. All right, so number 1, click and drag. 2, click and drag. 3, click and drag. 4, click and drag. And 5, we still have to drag to connect those 2 handlebars as we complete the path. All right, in this way, every one of our handlebars has, every one of our anchor points has handlebars, so every piece of our path is turning. If we switch to our hotkey A, that direct selection tool, this was what allowed us last time to select individual anchor points or pieces of path. You can see that that path can be turned using hotkey A, or that anchor point can be moved using hotkey A. You don't necessarily need to fix anything about this if you followed the template. But remember the hotkey A, the direct selection tool, the white arrow is what allows you to turn handlebars that are connected together. All right, let's go to step D. This is kind of a little bit of a practice test. So we might not always be building just a 4 anchor point object. We might need to be following a very interesting organic path. So I'm going to hit hotkey P to get back to my pen tool. And I'm going to click and drag. Now I'm dragging downwards because I know that the next piece of my path is downwards towards this way. If I dragged upwards, I might get an opposite curve. You see that now. I can't go to 2 with my path following here. So you're dragging towards the next step of your path. So click and drag. Go to 2 and click and drag. 3, 4. Ooh, that's a big stretchy path. And this one's got a little set of handlebars. Little handlebars make little turns, whereas big handlebars, like step 4, make really big turns. And all the way to 7. All right, so this is a nice, beautiful curved path. We don't have any corners where we don't want them. We have long turns and we have short turns. In order to exit the pen tool, you'll see that now it's kind of predicting that I want to go anywhere else. I can actually just hit P again for pen and it will know that I want to start a new path. And then we'll go to step E. All right, this no longer has our little handlebar templates for us, so we're gonna have to click and stretch those turns until we see them happening. All right, so I'm in my pen tool. I'm gonna click, I know this is a fairly large turn, so I'm gonna click and drag a nice long set of handlebars. And I'm gonna continue going around. Now my path is gonna start missing. I'm not doing a very good job at predicting. So we'll have to come back and do some manipulation of our handlebars to get that right. Try to match it as closely as possible this first time. Oh, this is fun. Okay, so this is the first time we've come up against a true S curve. So far, all of our curves between every anchor point could be described as a C. Between this anchor point and this anchor point, it's a C shape. Between this anchor point and this one, we have a C that reverses, so we have an S. So this time when you click and drag, instead of dragging this way, I want you to drag that path up. And you'll see that handlebars that are working in opposition to each other will create an S curve. Now we can come back down around to this. Click. Our neighbor over here. I guess we're so close. You might be tempted to put in more anchor points than is on the guide. Please don't. I promise that this entire path can be made with the amount of anchor points that are given to you. It is in your best interest, here's another S-curve, to use as few anchor points as possible for path. One, it saves the program memory, and if you're exporting this into something that must be animated or displayed in a game, memory is everything, and having a very low memory file can save somebody else a lot of work later, or load time, or buffering. So fewer anchor points is more powerful. Also, they just tend to look better, your paths do, if they have few anchor points. They're smoother. All right, if you made it to the end, congratulations. If you made it to the end and you know you have some gaps, let's go through and show you how to adjust those. So this is with that hotkey A, that white arrow tool. When selected, an anchor point will show you the handlebars connected to it. So this anchor point, this path, is influenced by the handlebars here, and the handlebar here on this half, and the handlebar here on this half of the previous anchor point. I'm going to now adjust those, maybe even the location of my anchor point, to try and get that much closer. That's better. I could go through the rest of my path here and just do very small adjustments. I'm not looking for it to be perfectly covered, just as good as you can get it in a little short amount of time. Just so that there's not a big obvious gap between your line and the dotted line of the template. Let's squeak that up for just a second. And we can make a handlebar shorter. We can make this handlebar longer. We can make this handlebar shorter. Much better. Once you've done those adjustments using hotkey A, let's move on to our next few steps. This is where we're going to get into what's called the anchor point tool. This is the maker, breaker, and creator. Excuse me, I guess maker and creator are the same. This is the maker and breaker of handlebars. All right, so we're going to reload our pen tool, P. Let's start with our directions here. 1, click. 2, click. 3, click and drag. So we're going to drag out handlebars. We're going to release the click. Then hold down. It's Option if you're on a Mac and it's Alt if you're on a PC. And click the anchor point. So I'm holding down Option and I'm going to click the anchor point. You notice my cursor changed briefly to that anchor point tool. And this second half of my handlebars is gone. Now if I let go of that and then click, I get my corner. I'm going to come over here to 5, click and drag. All right, so previously we've just covered how to have a path that is entirely curvy. This is a path that has both corners and curves. All right, so that was accomplished by giving ourselves a set of handlebars and then using a hotkey to delete the forward handlebar that would connect to the rest of the path. We did that by holding down Alt or Option and clicking on the on the anchor point itself. That was while we were still in the pen tool. Right, so let's try that again. We'll get a lot of practice here in the next path with that. So hotkey P for pen, click. 2 is click and drag, so we get our nice little curve. Then hold down Alt or Option and click the anchor point. Click. All right, 3 is just a plain click. 4, it looks like we've got to get handlebars again, so we're going to click and drag. Hold down Option. Option if you're on a Mac, Alt if you're on a PC. Click. All right, 5, click and drag. Hold down our hotkey, click on the anchor point. 6, oh, I'm dragging the wrong direction. Drag that way. Hold down my hotkey, Option, click the anchor point. 7, same deal, lots of good practice. And then 8, God bless 8, I just have to click once. All right, so now we know how to have a path that curves, breaks into a corner, curves, 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 etc. All right. Let's try with H to follow that, but without the guidelines. So we're going to start with this very topmost anchor point. Click. All right, I'm on anchor point 3 now. I'm going to click and drag. And then in order for that corner to turn, I've got to make sure I don't have a handlebar on the side, so I'm going to hold down Option, click on the anchor point. Click and drag, Option, click my anchor point. Click and drag, Option, anchor point. I'm going to say that so many times, you're going to hate it. Just make your way through the entire step H path. Long handlebars for this one. That's a big curve. Much shorter handlebars for this one. Small curve. I've got a couple of just straight lines. Click, click. Click, drag. All right, so in this way, this is the breaker of handlebars. This is the destroying function of our handlebar, of our anchor point tool. All right, because it deletes half of a set of handlebars so that you can turn a corner. Here in just a second, we're going to learn the other functions of this tool. Let's go to step I. This is going to give us some extra practice with that tool. Now, it's going to combine what we know about handlebars to create a curvy path. You'll notice that some of this path is complete curves, and what we know about turning corners. there are no anchor point guides for us anymore. So now we've just got to use our smarts. We've got to think about, is this a C curve? Could I do this with just 2 anchor points? Or is this an S curve? Am I going to need more, or are my handlebars going to have to be opposing? So let's just go ahead and start. Hotkey P. And I can get from here to here with a straight line, which is great. No overuse of anchor points there. All right, now I'm pretty sure I can get this curve by clicking and dragging. And because I've got to turn a corner, I've got to delete this half of the handlebar by holding down my hotkey Alt and clicking on the anchor point. Moving forward. Oh, some lovely little straight line corners. Corner, corner, corner. And click, drag. And delete our second half of our handlebar by holding down Option and clicking the anchor point. All right, now we're up against some curve. So I think I can make it from here to here with a curve. Now this might be the kind of stage where we end up coming back with our hotkey A to adjust our path. But now I'm going to, I don't think I have quite enough curve there. Click and drag, and click and drag my way around. Now if you have this kind of predicting line to show you where your path is going to be, remember that you still have drag in it, so you're not trying to get that little predicting line to land on your path, because you have some room to manipulate that once you start dragging. All right, now I've got another corner to turn, so I'm going to hold down Option, click my anchor point. Drag for a curve. Hold an Option, click my anchor point for a corner. Looks like I've just got a few more of these until the end of the path. This could be a big one. I have to scroll, 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 scroll. There we go. All right, now I'm going to switch into that hotkey A, that direct selection tool, because I need to do some small adjustments to my path. I clearly missed it right here. I think I can move this piece, this anchor point, further down. Let's see, I'll get this path to match, and then I will shorten this half. Get it to match just a little bit closer. Same thing here. I kind of want to cover up that dotted line a little bit more accurately. All right. Well, that was some good practice for me. I hope it was some great practice for you. We're now in part 2 of our exercise here. Now this one's called the anchor point tool. We've been using it, but there's a few more functions of it that we can learn. All right. So in part 2, let's go to step J1. J1 is asking us to create a diamond shape just by doing some simple clicks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now next, it wants us to duplicate that square over into step J2. So let's go ahead and select the whole square using our black arrow, our selection tool, hotkey V. In order to duplicate an object, we have a couple different options. We can use the very classic Control-C, Control-V. If you're on a Mac, it's Command-C, Command-V. C, Command-V. All right, that's one way to get a duplicate. We also have 2 more ways that I want you to learn. The next one, go ahead and select your object again. Instead of paste, which is the Control V, we can do something called paste in front. And what that does is it pastes whatever you've copied directly on the original. So right exactly on top of it, which means that you won't see anything different on your screen, but you would see something different in your layers. So here, this is the path that we have selected. And if I hit Command C, Command F for paste in front, notice I just got an exact copy here in my layer palette, and it is directly on front of the original. That comes in a lot of handy in other disciplines. The next way that I would like you to duplicate this object or learn how to duplicate this object is that if you have it selected and you begin clicking and dragging it towards where you would like to duplicate it, you can hold down the Option key, that is the Alt key on a PC, and release it where you would like it. Remember to release your click before you release your hotkey. And then you'll have a duplicate. We're going to use that one today a whole lot. All right, so first we've duplicate it. Then we here click and drag the anchor point using the anchor point tool to create joined handlebars. So previously when we created it, we had to click and drag. Now we're going to get into our anchor point tool. This has a hotkey, Shift C. All right, now if I click and drag the anchor point using the anchor point tool, it will create handlebars. Oh, I dragged the wrong direction. You see that? It's crossing itself. I gotta go the other way. Click and drag each anchor point to create a set of handlebars. Now these are joined handlebars. We'll talk about what it means if they're not joined. And they're joined because if I steer one using hotkey A, if I even only grab half of the set of handlebars, just the right half, the left half is still connected. They're still connected by a straight line, so they can't be manipulated separately. That's what it means by joined handlebars. All right. Next, it says it wants me to duplicate my circle. So go ahead and select your circle with hotkey V. You have to probably deselect and reselect to make sure you have the entire object. And then we're going to hold down Option or Alt while we duplicate it into step J3. All right. Or next, using our direct selection tool, hotkey A, select the anchor point A, then use anchor point tool, Shift C, to drag the handlebars independently. So this is breaking handlebars. All right, so let's select our anchor point with hotkey A, white arrow. Oops, I better change my hotkey. Hotkey A, and then I'm going to switch into Shift C and click and drag those handlebars into their place on a template. To view those again, I'm going to have to click hotkey A and then select that anchor point with hotkey A, then switch to Shift C. To drag my handlebars, or hotkey A, select the anchor point, Shift C, break the handlebars. A, select the anchor point, Shift C, break the handlebars. Golden. So now you can see that previously in step J2 we had handlebars that are connected, which means if you turned one, it turned both sides of that path connected to the anchor point. Now in here, if I change this handlebar, it is working independently of its previous mate over here because they've been broken. All right, let's move on to step 4. We're going to duplicate our diamond shape into step 4. Go ahead and hit hotkey V, use your Option or Alt key to duplicate it. Now this was how to break handlebars. We learned how to make them here, how to break them here. And here we're just going to learn how to destroy them all together. So we're going to click each anchor point using the anchor point tool to delete handlebars altogether. So this is what was happening in the previous steps when we were holding down Option and then clicking on our anchor point once to get rid of half. In the anchor point tool itself, if we just click once, it will delete both handlebars connected to an anchor point. And we're back to having that sideways square, that diamond on point. All right, there's one more thing we're going to try here in this step J. Let's duplicate that square. Hold on, Option or Alt, and bring it into place. Now using the anchor point tool, again, Shift C, we're going to click and drag the path. So not the anchor points, but the path. The path is that line that occurs between them. So I'm going to switch into Shift C, and I'm going to click on the path and drag until it matches the template. You notice that it gives me handlebars on my path, and that they are not connected. The handlebar here for this piece of my path is not connected to the handlebar just dragged here. So by dragging on our path, we can create independent handlebars that are not connected to each other. That was by clicking on the path with the anchor point tool. All right, let's apply a couple things that we just learned in our next couple steps. So step K, L, and M. Step 1, use the pen tool, P, to draw this shape. All right, this seems pretty straightforward. We're just clicking. Click, click, click. Now we did go all the way to the end of the path so that we had a whole complete path. All right, then we duplicate it. So we're going to hotkey V, select the entire object, and hold down our Option or Alt and put it into place. All right, use the anchor point tool, Shift C, to give each path handlebars. So this is like the step that we just got done with. We're going to hit Shift C, and we're going to click and drag on our path until it matches that darker dotted line. Wonderful, that's step 2. All right, step 3. We're going to duplicate this fish shape. Let's see, I'm going to have to scroll over here and place it again. All right, now use the direct selection tool, hotkey A, the white arrow, to change the handlebar positions. Okay, so we need the path now to match the new dotted line here. So I'm going to hotkey A, and I'm going to have to change the direction that my handlebars are pulling my path in order to get a new shape. Let's see, I'm going to drag this big because I bet this is going to be hard. Oh, so this was pretty close. All right, next set looks like this one. Shift C. Oops, I'm in hotkey A. I'm going to drag my handlebars. A nice long curve. Looks like this one's an S curve, so my handlebars have to be kind of facing the different directions. All right, brand new shape. This is all done by operating our handlebars independently of each other. All right, with all of this knowledge, our challenge now is to trace these organic shapes. We have a shark, a feather, and a coyote skull. There are no guides here to tell you where your handlebars should be, where your anchor point should be, so we're just going to do our absolute best to remember what it is we know. I am going to click and drag so that I get a path curves over the top of that shark. Now this is something that we haven't necessarily gone over in a step, but instead of just deleting my handlebar here, I'm going to hold down my Option key. Remember, if I held an Option and clicked on my anchor point, it deleted it. I'm going to hold down my Option key, and then I'm actually going to move my handlebar. I'm going to pull that up. And then now we have two independent handlebars, which means I can have a curve here the way I want it. Now I'm going to click on my anchor point to get rid of it. And click drag. Hold down my hotkey. And make my way slowly around this path with what I know. If you have a corner, you're going to have to use a hotkey Option to turn it. If you want to hold down Option and you don't want to delete your handlebar because maybe you want another one later, go ahead and just click and drag it. Now, knowing how to use the pen tool is going to be one of your most valuable skills in Illustrator. Illustrator is very good. It's got a wonderful set of geometric tools, which can be used so many ways to create things like logos or very geometric objects or abstract objects. But a true skill is being able to draw any shape you want. And that's what we're doing today. I can't quite make that happen with just one, so I have to do. There we go. I'm going to finish this shark. Now if I click and drag, you'll notice I wanted to click and drag because I wanted this underside of the face to be curved, but it connected my drag to my original handlebar. So this is where we're going to have to get Shift C and break the handlebars from each other. All right, I can use hotkey A now to do some small adjustments anywhere that I feel it could be a little more accurate. Including the dorsal fin. And then, oops, look at that fun line. I'm going to fix that too. And then I will move on to the feather. All right, so what I just did was a way that feels more natural to me, which is kind of curve my path as I'm drawing it. To some people, curving it afterwards is more helpful. To some people, they would rather put in straight anchor points, like so, knowing where their curves have to happen, or excuse me, where their corners have to happen, their anchor points. Let's see, we'll do one here, here, here. I've seen this happen before, so just follow along with me, and I promise it'll make sense a little bit later. We'll try to get this whole S curve with one, but we might need an extra anchor point. I'm just going to put anchor points where I know I have to have them. If I need some later, I'll grab some later. All right, so this looks really scary for a second, but what some people really enjoy doing is planting their anchor points and then using their anchor point tool, Shift C, to pull out the curves in their path. It starts making a little sense once you've actually done it. All right, so in this case we have an S curve, so we're going to have to pull this handlebar in and this handlebar down a little more strong. And curve. Now this time, instead of just curving this piece, we want connected handlebars for this nice smooth corner up at the top. So we're going to click on our anchor point instead to drag those ones out. Let's get this one out of the way for a second so we can make room. All right, so this one is one I don't know if I can quite stretch it all the way that it needs to. Inside path, outside path, almost. Drag this one. And here's another S curve, so our handlebars kind of have to be going opposite directions. All right, so that is one way to build a path. You have to be pretty good at predicting where your corners are to do so, but it totally works. You notice that we didn't have to click and drag and break handlebars and click and drag every time. So you're more than welcome to use that if that felt really nice to you or natural at all. I'm a build as you go kind of person, but that doesn't mean that's the only right way to do it. All right, let's do, well, I'm going to quit fussing. Let's do the coyote skull. So this could be a combination of a little bit of the build as you go and drag in your handlebars after the fact. So let's start here at the nostril. We'll just go up and around the top here. This doesn't have really dramatic curly curves like our exercise did. This has more subtle, teeny, organic bumps. Looks like we have a little corner here, so we can use that Option hotkey to turn. We have some corners again, so we'll have to use our Option key to access our anchor point tool in order to break the handlebars so we can have nice corners. Now, I'm the kind of person who likes stopping what I'm doing, coming back, and adjusting my path from time to time. The trick to that is that you have to make sure that when you hit your pen tool that you start on the path that you, or that you rejoin the original path that you started. So you have to make sure that you get that icon that has like the / next to your pen tool when you click the next time. All right, so I'm getting to the point now where I could probably just put anchor points in every one of these little corners and then drag out the handlebars. So that's what I'm going to do, like we did with the feather. Might save myself just a little bit of time. Then all the clicking and dragging and holding down Option. Or once I've completed my path by making it around to the end, I'm going to hit Shift C to get my anchor point tool, and I will drag my path so it has independent handlebars. In all the places that it needs to curve. Remember, probably just needed a teeny tiny curve. All right, we're almost done. We just have the eye shape. Now this shape has no corners. This entire shape has handlebars that are connected. So maybe we have to start with a click and a drag and end with a click and a drag. And if anywhere your path has got quite a big gap, you can go back with hotkey A and change the tilt or length of those handlebars or the location of the anchor points. All right. Thank you for sticking with it. This is a hard day. It's a lot to learn, but it is so important and it is so powerful. And I hope that if it felt a little overwhelming, that it keeps coming back to you every time you try to use it. But that was our pen tool intro. Go ahead and save your file, and I will see you for Illustrator Lab 3.